Hello there, everyone. How you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/reddit, r/askreddit to find out what is your I don't get paid enough for this shiz moment. If you enjoy, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, hit that notification bell, and let's get started, shall we? Being told that I ruined a woman's Christmas because the supermarket I worked at was out of brandy infused marmalade. When I was 18 working at a retail store, a baby in his mother's arms took a dump so massive that his diaper could not contain it. A bunch ended up on the floor and the mother ran away. I was not paid enough for that literal shiz. I worked for a small college. The president's secretary thought that most things were above her pay grade, and at one of the busiest times of the year for my office decided that I should put in 80 plus hours to clean her data and get something she needed done. After getting it finished, she decided that she wanted the whole thing changed. I broke down. I went to the doctor in the midst of a full-blown panic attack and was given a note for 2 weeks off of work, which meant they had to use what I did or do it themselves. I came back to work and resigned. I used to be a counselor at a methadone clinic. I had a client who was going to prison for slitting the throats of his ex-wives, beloved Rottweilers, because I couldn't kill her, and it was the best way to hurt her. The day he was supposed to go to prison, he showed up at the clinic after closing hours, demanding his dose. He was no longer on the clinic, so legally there was no way to do this. I stood behind the counter and tried explaining the situation to him. He grew more and more irate and then called his lawyer and put me on the phone with him. His lawyers explained the dude didn't show up for prison, was now a fugitive, and had pulled a knife on his own sister in her car, just outside my clinic. So the dude had a knife. The lawyer told me not to anger the dude. He was violent and to call the cops. By this point, every other therapist and office worker had moseyed the frick out. So I told the lawyer thanks, hung up the phone, and moseyed out of the front office and called the cops from the break room. The dude hopped over the counter and trashed the place and left. The bosses asked why I didn't stay and make sure he didn't trash the place. I explained they paid me $10.50 an hour and refused my raise. I was the only man in the building and was left alone with an armed and violent felon. Screw their stuff. Damn. Ah, yes, the stuff in the counter is more important than the human life of our employee. Classic corporate move. After 4 months of not seeing my family because I was working full time and only getting 1 day off a week, I finally quit without notice when they were going to make me close last Thanksgiving. I had already requested and approved the day off a month prior. I left and never came back. The GM even tried pulling the "You can't quit, you're fired." Fired equals unemployment. Quit equals nothing. Get him to put it in an email or text or record it for later. The manager at a grocery store I worked in my teens refused to pay the waste management bill for several months. When they finally came and emptied the dumpster, there were still mounds of trash laying about the area. He had me go out and clean all of it up alone. I didn't have any protective gear or supplies whatsoever, and I was out in 100+ degree weather. I was given only a bunch of trash cans to put it into, and when I went in to ask for help, I was just given a shovel. I worked one more day after that, and after just being given more work to do without so much as a good job or thanks, I never went back. Screw that. I'm surprised you didn't just leave when they refused to help you. I used to work at an old country buffet, and there were kids who would eat until they threw up, like all the time. This one case is that really seared into my mind was when I was fixing up this salad bar. I heard "Billy, run!" screamed from ignorant parents, and then I see this 12-year-old boy running to the bathroom. He didn't make it. An unholy amount of undigested red jello came and exploded out of him like a volcano all over the Caesar salad, the floor next to the cash register, and on about 5 to 6 diners waiting in line to get in. It looked like he had literally vomited his guts out in an arc about 10 feet in diameter. I had to sweep up the chunks with a broom until a dishwasher with a mop could take care of the rest. Oh boy. Plumber, owner of a mobile home, called and said they had a stinky yard. I could smell it when I pulled up. The mobile home was new and had only been set up for about 8 months. While setting it up, someone didn't tighten a no-hub pan of the toilet in the kids' bathroom. 8 months of flush toilet was all over the ground, under the home, and had just started being noticed outside. I told the homeowner to call the guys that set it up to come fix it. I was not crawling under there. Oh, God, and it must have been smelling long before it got that bad. I'm picturing them walking around their house for months going, "What's that smell?" Oh, boy. When I was a 911 telecommunicator, taking all the unaliving calls, domestics with children, medical calls, people dying, officers getting shot, and so on. Did it for 16 years before enough was enough. Barista. A grabby customer grabs drink on the counter, tastes it, and says, "This isn't mine. I ordered a vanilla latte. This is also iced." I proceed to tell her it's clearly not her drink she picked up then. I'm currently making the grabby's drink, then I have to double back to make the previous drink for the customer it was originally intended for. Again, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Customer service should definitely be paid more. When a thick stream of sweat drained out of this girl's cell phone case, I had to explain to her that her phone had water damage and that she shouldn't work out with her phone in her bra, all while trying to be professional and not gag while cleaning up the mess. I sold phones at Sprint. I worked at a heating and air conditioning company doing bookkeeping. I was being trained by the company's accountant. If I made a mistake, the owner would literally scream at me full voice. I overheard him talking to his brother, and his brother had told him not to scream at me. The owner said, "You have to tear them down to build them up." I decided I wasn't going to take another day of his screaming after that. I ran the entire company's financials and general management for $14 an hour. I had a meeting with the owner telling him I need a raise and to hire an assistant. He told me I wasn't business-minded and should be a stay-at-home mom. I quit the next day. That was so disrespectful on the boss's part. Bagging groceries at a major supermarket. The manager came over to tell me that I needed to clean up the bathroom. An elderly gentleman fell off the toilet while pooping, and it was a literal shit show. Apparently, I was the most qualified because I was 16. I was handed a broom and dustpan. I shit you not, sorry, I had to make the joke, my reward for going above and beyond the Call of Duty, $5 in store coupons. Oh, wow! Sometimes dreams really do come true! Wow! While working as a student custodian on campus, I had to clean vomit out of a urinal. There is no easy, not gross way of cleaning that. It's not worth the minimum wage. First day at the health department, I'm left in the reception desk alone, while literally everyone else in the office went out to a farewell lunch for the person I was replacing. As I was on a 90-day probation, I wasn't yet licensed and badged. My pay was $7.96 an hour. I'm sitting at reception, and some redneck comes in with a leaking garbage bag and drops it on my desk. It contains a newly beheaded javelina head. His buddy had been bitten, and he needed to be tested for rabies ASAP. I had no clue what to do with a leaking garbage bag of javelina head. He couldn't wait for others to return, so he left a number and split. Turns out we don't do that sort of thing at the health department, and the guy refused to come back. Oh my god, that's disgusting. I worked for a summer camp 1 year that was run by a stereotypically hippy-dippy organization. Now, I personally support this organization, but they had some ridiculous idea about how to discipline children, in that they didn't believe in discipline at all. No timeouts, no raising your voice, even just to be heard, no rewards to be earned or positive reinforcement, no loss of privileges, no warnings, no speaking to the parents about behavioral issues, nothing. Now, most of the kids were coming to this camp because their parents didn't have the means to send them to more expensive camps, and quite a lot of them had behavioral issues to start with. But none of the kids were monsters. In fact, they were all pretty great. They just mostly needed some understanding and solid boundaries. Unfortunately, with no discipline comes no boundaries, or at least no way to enforce boundaries. So the kids tended to run amok, and there wasn't a whole lot we counselors could do. So I surreptitiously gave a few timeouts to some of the more wild kids. And guess what? Their behavior immediately improved, and I never had trouble with them again. In fact, they had a better time because they weren't constantly getting into fights with their friends. But I guess the higher-ups found out about it somehow and sat me down to talk about how you just need to talk to them, find out why they're behaving badly, and make them understand the correct way to behave. I knew why they were behaving badly. They were kids in a place away from their parent, with no rules and no discipline. They were seeing what they could get away with. In the end, I basically ignored the higher-ups. I wasn't getting paid enough to deal with kids all day without having any way of keeping a bit of control. Regardless, the only problem kids had already had their timeouts, and like I said, they were fine once they knew where the line was. Besides, I wasn't worried about my job. They don't believe in discipline. Wow, those bosses give the "we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas" vibes. Oh my god. When I was doing 90% of my boss's job in hopes of a full-time promotion that I had been promised for 3 years, and he took all of the credit and told me my promotion wasn't in the budget. I worked at a Circuit City when I was 17, heard the noise of a packaging being opened in the movie section, found a guy crouched down cutting open DVD boxes stealing the discs. He looked at me, held his knife out, and said, "Got a problem?" I just replied, "I don't get paid enough for this shiz," and backed off. I went to the back room of the warehouse area to call a manager to tell them what happened. Never could get a hold of anyone, so I just chilled in the warehouse for a half hour to decompress. Well, that was the wise choice. Why get shanked over some freaking Megacorp's DVDs? I worked at a retail store. Fiends would come in occasionally looking to steal stuff, and the worst we could do legally was ask them to leave. But my boss insisted we get physical with them, to which I obviously told her frick no. I watched her chase one of the store out of the store one day, and she screams at me since I'm standing by the door like, "Tackle him!" And I'm like, "No, Lamau." Oh my god. Grocery store cashier. The customer was angry because her cereal had rung up wrong. I called a price check and this lady berated me the whole time. I recall she accused me of trying to steal from her, said she was going to get me fired. I looked at her and said, "I make $7.25 an hour. No matter how much you pay for this cereal, I do not give a shit how this situation turns out." She stared back at me in shock. The price check comes back saying the price scanned correctly, and there was silence. I said, "So do you want the cereal or not?" And she said yes, and that was that. She did not complain to the manager. Bartender here. Grown man threw a lit cigarette at my face and threatened me with physical violence. This was a year or so ago, but a 45, maybe older-year-old man was behaving that way towards a 24-year-old female was definitely one of those moments. Plus, the people getting handsy and occasional cleaning of vomit that I do not get paid enough for. That's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit that notification bell. And maybe consider buying some of my merch at Teespring. It's in the description. The link's in the description. Buy the merch if you can. I got a shirt. I got a mask. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Hasta la pasta.